The lake stretched wide beneath the sky, its surface rippling under the weight of the wind. The trees surrounding it stood like silent sentinels, their branches stretching toward the water as if whispering secrets. The air smelled of damp earth and something else, something faintly metallic, like rusted iron. It was the kind of scent that lingered in the back of the throat, refusing to be swallowed. Abigail Monroe tightened her grip on the straps of her backpack and took a deep breath. She had heard the stories, of course. Everyone in town had. The lake had taken a life nearly every year, sometimes two. People drowned, people vanished, and yet no one could ever explain why. The water had been searched, dragged, studied. No hidden currents, no sudden drop-offs, nothing that could account for the deaths. Yet the stories persisted. Her parents had warned her not to go. So had her friends. But Abigail wasn't afraid of ghost stories, and she wasn't afraid of the lake. She had come here for solitude, for the quiet that only nature could offer. She had come to be alone. The sun was beginning to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows across the water. Abigail set down her bag near the shore, kneeling to untie her shoes. The mud was soft beneath her fingers as she pulled off her socks and stood, the damp earth pressing against her skin. She walked to the edge of the lake, dipping her toes into the water. It was colder than she expected. A single ripple spread outward. She shivered and took a step back, wrapping her arms around herself. The air had grown cooler, though the sun had not fully set. A strange sensation prickled at the base of her neck, the uncomfortable awareness of being watched. She turned, scanning the trees, but there was nothing, no movement, no sound, just the wind and the rustling leaves. She exhaled, forcing herself to relax. The lake was empty. She was alone. Abigail settled onto the ground, pulling her jacket tighter around her. She had planned to stay until nightfall, to watch the stars reflect off the water. There was something beautiful about the way the lake swallowed light, something mesmerizing about its depths. The stillness was almost hypnotic. She lay back, staring at the sky, letting the sounds of the forest lull her into a state of peace. The distant hoot of an owl, the soft rustling of the wind, the steady lapping of the water against the shore, then a splash. Her eyes snapped open. The lake was calm, smooth as glass. Abigail sat up slowly, her breath shallow. It could have been a fish, or a frog, or something else. But she couldn't shake the feeling that it was something else. The sun was lower now, the trees casting jagged shadows across the ground. The water reflected the deepening orange of the sky, dark and glassy. She swallowed. She had planned to stay longer, but maybe it was time to go. A chill ran through her as she stood, brushing the dirt from her jeans. The lake had grown quieter, too quiet. Even the wind had stopped. The forest was silent when Abigail woke, the kind of silence that felt unnatural, as if the world itself was holding its breath. She hadn't meant to fall asleep by the lake, but exhaustion must have crept in without her realizing. Her body ached from lying on the uneven ground, and the air was far colder than before. The sun was gone now, replaced by a heavy darkness that pressed in around her. For a moment, she was disoriented. The lake stretched before her, black and endless, reflecting nothing. The trees behind her loomed taller in the night, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers against the void of the sky. Her breath came in slow, steady puffs of mist. She reached for her backpack, her fingers stiff with cold. It was time to leave. Then she heard it, A voice, software muffled, like a whisper carried by the wind. She froze, her pulse hammering against her ribs. The sound had come from the water. Abigail turned her head slowly, her gaze fixed on the lake's surface. It was still, too still. The air around her felt heavier, as if the very atmosphere had thickened. Then it came again, a voice, calling her name. The sound was distant, almost gentle, a whisper rippling through the dark. It was impossible to tell if it was coming from the water or beyond it, but it curled around her like mist, wrapping around her senses. Her body tensed. It had to be the wind. It had to be. But the wind wasn't blowing. She swallowed, her throat dry. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. She stared at the water, waiting for something, anything, to move. Nothing did. The voice came again, closer. Abigail's skin prickled with something cold and nameless. She took a step back, then another. The trees behind her seemed farther away than before, as if the space between her and the forest had stretched. The air felt thick, pressing against her like unseen hands. She turned. Something crunched behind her. A footstep. Her breath caught. She whipped around, expecting to see something standing there. Nothing. Just the lake, still and silent. The voice came again. This time, it was right behind her. She spun, but the darkness swallowed everything. The world around her seemed wrong now, the trees too still, the water too black. The air itself felt unnatural, as if she had stepped into a place where she did not belong. Abigail's hands were shaking. She needed to leave. Now she took a step toward the trees. The lake whispered her name, and then a splash. A single small ripple spread across the surface of the water. She didn't look back. She ran. Abigail ran, her breath sharp and ragged in the cold night air. The trees blurred past her, their twisted limbs clawing at the sky. The ground was uneven, roots and rocks threatening to trip her with every frantic step. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. The whisper of her name still clung to the air, curling around her like invisible fingers. The lake was behind her now, but she could feel it, its presence, vast and watching. Something was wrong with the night. The trees stretched taller, their trunks pressing in around her. The forest should have been familiar, but every step she took seemed to lead her deeper into the unknown. Her breath formed pale clouds in the air, her heartbeat a wild drum in her ears. She couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. A shape moved between the trees. She stumbled, catching herself against a gnarled trunk. The bark was cold, damp beneath her fingertips. Her eyes darted across the shadows. Nothing, just darkness. She forced herself forward, feet pounding against the earth. The trail should have been here, the road, the path, anything leading away from this place. But the deeper she went, the more the forest twisted, its silence heavier than before. Then a sound, water, sloshing. The breath in her throat turned to ice. The lake was ahead of her, impossible. She had run away from it, and yet the black water stretched before her once more, rippling under the moonless sky. Abigail turned, ready to bolt in the other direction, but her body froze. Her reflection stood in the water, not near the shore, not where it should have been, but out in the middle of the lake, standing, watching. The figure had her face, her shape, her clothes, but it was wrong. The eyes were too dark, hollow pools of ink. The mouth was slightly parted, lips curling at the edges in something that was not a smile. Abigail's breath caught in her throat. The reflection tilted its head. She took a step back. The reflection did not move. The whisper came again, a rustling voice that slithered beneath her skin. She felt the cold press against her back before she realized she was standing at the water's edge. She hadn't moved. She tried to turn, to run, to flee. But the reflection raised a hand, and Abigail's body responded. Her fingers lifted, mimicking the movement against her will. The reflection's lips parted wider, a whisper of water against the shore, a whisper of her name. Then the reflection stepped forward, but the water did not ripple. Abigail's vision swam, her body locked in place. The cold seeped into her skin, up her spine, into her skull. The reflection stepped closer, closer. Abigail opened her mouth to scream, but water rushed in, icy, endless, and then silence.